Hey all, Pixel here in Probable Garage, and now that I've done this to my cube and made it completely unsaleable, I should probably go through and see what kind of condition it's in mechanically. Um, I bought this, it's got 142-ish thousand miles on it. The engine on it's got about 70,000 miles on it. It was an old man's car. Runs and drives okay. Shortly after it passed inspection, the muffler cracked, so it rattles. But I haven't actually gone through in detail. I know a few things that it needs, but I need to place an order. So I'm just gonna like pull the wheels off, crawl underneath it, dig around in the engine bay, figure out everything it needs so I can place an order. And then as soon as that stuff comes in, I'm just gonna go through and deal with all of its issues all at once. So under the hood here, I know it needs an oil change, so I'm gonna order a filter. It needs a belt because it's looking a little sad. This motor mount is badly cracked, so I need to replace that. I'm going to buy plugs for it, throw those in. I could cut the zip tie holding the air filter box together and check the air filter, but I'm just going to order an air filter and put it in. Is this? Oh, that's just access to the chassis number. Okay. This seems to not have a cabin air filter. I think only the fancier ones with the automatic climate control had cabin air. What the heck? There we go. So this doesn't appear to have a cabin air filter. I think the fancier ones did. It probably needs front struts, but unless one of them is obviously blown, I'm not going to worry about that for right now. Belts, hoses rather, look okay. Yeah, I think they'll be fine for right now. If I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do it another time of year, not when it's freezing cold, because I don't want to get covered in freezing cold coolant. It's got a brand new battery in it, so yeah, motor mount, belt, plugs, air filter, oil filter, and that should take care of me. Up here, I'm going to crawl underneath, obviously, and check those motor mounts as well. All right, car's up, wheels are off. The lug nuts fought me enough that if they're cheap, I'm just going to buy some more lug nuts. But what we got here? Rotors look decent. Pads have a ton of material. Back of the rotors are a little gnarlier, but that's okay. No obvious leaks from that. Okay, cord, that looks okay. Boot's not torn on the tie rod. Boot's not torn on the axle. Oh, that bushing is completely shot there. You can see that's like hanging out. So I'm gonna probably do lower control arms. I need to put the fender liner in on this side, but this isn't too bad. Like that lower control arm is pretty much the worst thing. Yeah, caliber, boots look okay. Yeah, so left front lower control arm, which probably means right front. I'm gonna look at the price on strut assemblies, because if a whole assembly, or I don't even have to take the spring off, is cheap, I may do that. That's kind of a little worn. I may do those if they're cheap. Let's go to the back here. Shock is not obviously blown. Lines and stuff all look okay. That bushing's not great, but it's such a pain to replace, I'm not going to worry about it. Let's see if I can get this drum off. Alright, parking brakes on. And we're good in here. Plenty of pad material, no obvious problems with the drum. This is dry, so we don't have a bad brake cylinder. So I'm going to give the pad faces a little, shoe faces a little scuff, clean out the inside of that, plop this back on here. And that's all fine back there. Let's do this side. Looks like the exact same thing here. This is dry, so there's no leakage. Pads are fine. Here's the bearings. I think that I didn't check that other wheel bearing. I'll spin it real quick, but I doubt it's going to be bad. So yeah, this is all perfectly fine in here. I know I need to lower the spare and check it, because apparently the spares rot out in these, which is interesting. So I'm going to lower that and check it. I know the muffler is bad. We're going to crawl underneath and check the other part of the exhaust. Let's check this corner. This fender liner needs to be properly secured. Not obviously, yeah, this one's looks different style than the other side, but it's similarly poor condition. So we're going to do another lower control arm on this side. Same deal, if these are cheap, I'll grab those. Boots are good, boots are good. Rotor's in about the same condition. Yeah, cool. Wasn't expecting lower control arms, but those shouldn't be terrible price-wise. They may be terrible to do if the Prius is any indication. But yeah, no horrible surprises. That's good to see. So let's go look underneath. So we got a motor mount here that's pretty rusty. I may just change that because it's rusted, regardless if it's bad or not. Pan. It's a little wet, but that may just be the drain plug. I'm not going to worry about it. It's not massively dripping. Don't see any other major problems. I may do fluid in the trans. I'll look that up. Might be worth draining and refilling with a good synthetic like Redline or something, just to make the trans shift a little nicer. As far as the exhaust system goes, this is fine. This is fine. That's clamp-on section. That's looks good and solid. So I'm not going to worry about the mid pipe right now, because the only one I can buy is another steel one. So it's not worth changing it. The lines under here look good. The floors, like, this thing's got a lot of rust around the edges like New England cars have, but the floors are all nice and solid. There's nothing dire under here. So that's good. All right, and then back here, this is bad. See what happened? It's actually been fixed once. Oh, I see. I thought it was rotted over here, but apparently it's been fixed once before, and that has... Oh, shit. That's supposed to be a joint, and it's not. It's been... Somebody cut out the joint and welded it in. That weld has failed again. So my choices at this point are to replace the whole system or cut this back out and put another patch in here. The rest of this is actually... No, this muffler's solid, I think. So I'll price it. If it's cheap to just do the two pipes, I'll do the two pipes. If it's expensive, I will redo this repair again. But that's actually not a bad muffler, that's just that. So that's good and bad. It's bad because if I want to replace the muffler properly, I need to replace the other system. It's good in that I can just basically do the same repair again, and it'll last another several years. Yep, it's pretty damn rusty. Look at that. Wow. Kind of impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a spare that nasty. It's not holding air, or it's flat anyway. I don't know if it doesn't hold air or not, but I'm going to try and fill this with air, see if it holds air. If it holds air, I'm going to clean up the inside of it, repaint it before I put it back up again. But holy cow, that's crusty and nasty. And unfortunately, the way this is designed, it'll only fit, you can see it's like a little cradle under there, it'll only fit the spare. You can't put a full-size tire in there. It just doesn't fit. And there's no other good place to put a full-size spare. So, yeah, there's been a couple people on the Cube group that I'm on, basically desperately trying to locate spares because they needed theirs and found out it was completely rotted away. Look at that. The bumpers melted away from the exhaust beam. Not quite the right way, but I have been told a full-size doesn't fit. No, yeah. I'd have to modify a bunch. I could probably make one fit, but it wouldn't be easy. This alone would not hold it. I'd have to design a different one. I could do it, but it's not immediately worth it. So it's gonna check that, and spare tire maybe on my shopping list as well. So I put the recommended 60 psi in this, and it seems to be already losing. Yeah, it's down to 50 already. So this is not holding air anymore, which means I'm gonna have to source another spare, and I suspect any car I find at the junkyard is gonna have just as bad a spare as this one does, but that's a bummer. I mean, realistically, I have the 100 metal toe in AAA, so I'm not super worried, but I still realistically should have a good spare tire. So that's something I'm going to track down. I'm not going to bother putting this back under the car because it's flat, or it's going to be flat in, you know, a couple of hours. So it's worthless to even have it there. So I'm just going to put that rack back up without this in it. And as long as it's not super rattly, as long as it doesn't need this to not sound horrible, I'll just leave it as is. But like, wow, look at that. That's like 2000s Chevy pickup truck spare level of rot. Like, Jesus criminy. And like, I might be able to get this dismounted, clean the edge up, get it to seal, but like, that's definitely lost a lot of material, so I'm not even sure a tire shop will want to come near that before or after I redo it. So I did go through, scuff the brake shoes, sprayed everything out with brake clean, put some anti-seize on everything. So the back here can get reassembled on both sides, and it is done. I don't have to touch this anymore. There's some rust and stuff in here, so I may, wow, there's more rust than I expected, but I'm just going to spray this in here with fluid film for just right now. Same with the rear axle and stuff, and maybe next year I will go in and do more with that, but for right now it's fine. Same thing on the other side, and I also did the front rotor. So with this, all the lug nuts were a pain to get off, so did this so that it'll be less. I may order new lug nuts again, depending on how cheap they are. So I'm going to put this fender liner in, and I'm going to put the fender liner in on the, or I'm going to put some more of the missing hardware on the fender liner on the other side, and then I think I'm going to call it done for the evening. There's definitely, yeah, I got more grandpa repairs. There's big, looks like they tried to re-secure the fender liner that had gotten torn out by jamming big screws in with random pieces of metal, probably to try and fill the hole, and that didn't work. So I'm going to do it with new hardware that I bought, and hopefully that will work better. I need it partially because I need it to stop throwing crap this way against all of this. Right. And the fender liner's in, and everything's been coated. Like the other side, it's got a zip tie holding it to the bolt here, a zip tie here, and the front edge is bent up and zip tied in. So it's pretty solid. The little cheapy connectors I bought were a mistake. They didn't work super great. I broke a bunch of them trying to get them to work, and in the end I couldn't put the mud flap back on here because the flap itself was damaged. I didn't notice it before, but once I tried to reinstall it properly, it wouldn't fit in. So I'm just going to shoot this little bit of silver with the green and forget about it for now, and keep an eye out for something else to use there. So I will catch up to you once I have ordered those parts and they have arrived. So I'm trying to replace the wiper blades, and in my earlier video I talked about wondering why the heck there were these clamps on here, Well, it turns out he installed the... I don't know how well this is going to show up. Sorry if it's all foggy, because it's very wet out. But he installed the blade wrong. He jammed the arm under this instead of having it over it where it would catch the clip. And so instead of installing it right, he put a clamp on to keep this from sliding back off again. So cascade of fail there. So right now I'm trying to find the right size wrench so I can get these off and put some wiper blades on correctly. Alright, not that it looks ugly or anything, but I just want it noted for the record. I did not do the silver dry brushing on these wiper arms. That was Michelin. I have no idea why they have silver dry. I don't know if it's showing up well on camera or not, but there is literally silver paint on them. Dry brushing on to like highlight the shape. But I'm a dork, but I was about to say I'm not that kind of dork. I might have been, but I'm just fascinated that a giant corporation decided that they needed to dry brush their wipers. And it's about a week and a half later, and my parts have come in. I've also cleaned the garage up enough so I can get the cube in here. It's going to be a little less miserable. So we've got 2 control arms, the 2 they're torque struts or something, not motor mounts, but whatever. The top one and the bottom one. We've got in among the stuff. These are the boots for the spark plugs. I've got 4 spark plugs in here. I've got a belt. I've got lug nuts. I've got an oil filter. I've got an air filter. I forgot to get a fuel filter, but I'm not going to get everything done today. But I'm going to try and bang out some of this stuff in the hour I've got until I've got some people coming over. Well, it's a good thing I decided to change the air filter because it's got a mouse nest in it. Yeah, fortunately it looks like they didn't chew through the filter, so it's just on this side, but I can't imagine the engine's going to breathe super well with all that crap in there, so hoping I can just vacuum it all out. Because I know this all up in here didn't have it because I pulled this thing off. So I think I just have to vacuum up the bottom of that. But surprise, surprise. Alright, well, I'm not doing spark plugs tonight because that's one, that's another, and that's another. Some damn fool designer put a intake manifold in the way. So I'm going to have to pull all this off, which I'm pretty sure means I'm going to need an intake manifold gasket. There's also a bunch of other stuff that's going to need to be disconnected, so do not have time for that in the time I have. So I think I'm going to try and change this out and see if I can find the tensioner and change the belt. My alarm just went off that tells me I have to go back inside. So this is as far as I've gotten. This is changed. I can't do the belt from above because I can only reach the idler pulley thingy from below. So that I haven't been able to do. I've been trying for the last bit to get this intake off and I've got it loose, but there's still something up in this area that's keeping it from moving properly. I decided to do the intake now because it's a O-ring style gasket, so it might be reusable, and if not, everybody has it in stock, so I might as well just do it. But yeah, something in here is still caught, so tonight I'm gonna research that. But I got a few things done. I mean, it's got an air filter, it's got this changed, it's got the rear lug nuts changed, so I'm chipping away at it. So I'll catch up with all of you when I'm back in the garage, and we'll continue working on this. Alright, next day, and I'm back at it. Pouring rain outside, so I'm really glad I got this inside. I got my little buddy keeping me warm here, and I figured out why the intake wouldn't come off. There is one more bolt hiding way the heck under here. I had to take the throttle body off, I had to disconnect the coolant lines to the throttle body to get that off, and now this is free. I now have to disconnect or remove or something this thing so that I can actually get the whole sucker out. But it is finally free, more or less. Alright, so in the continuing adventures of this, the hole in the head is not big enough for spark plug sockets, which made me realize it takes really tiny plugs that use a 14 mil, which is fine. You can get a 14 mil, you can get it down there, but since they're not spark plug sockets, they don't have the rubber bit that a spark plug socket does that grabs the plug to pull it out. So I've had to resort to this thingy to reach down in here and try to grab the head of the plug and pull it back out, which, as you can see, takes a little bit of trying to get. But anyway, yeah, so I've been doing that, get them out, and pulling them out. They got a little bit of oil on the threads, which means that there's a little bit of oil leaking past the valve cover, but not enough to make me worry because it's not puddling, it's just a bit of residue. And the plugs actually look like they're in decent shape. There's a tiny bit of wear on the iridium tip, but they're nice and clean and everything. I'm going to put the new plugs in, obviously, but it's nice to see that at least the one I've pulled out so far doesn't have any horrible surprises. This is in line with the idea that this is a 70,000 mile motor, because these plugs look basically brand new. But yeah, I'm going to get those out, and then I also have new boots for these as well, because they recommended replacing those at the same time. So I'm going to pull these boots off, replace those, and then I can put everything back together. Alright, I'm at the reassembly phase, and I mentioned that spark plug sockets have that bit of rubber insides that can grab the plug to help it pull out. If this was a normal motor that took a spark plug socket, you wouldn't want to reinstall them with that, because that would grip the plug well enough that when you tightened it down and pulled up, you'd probably pull the extension out of the socket and leave the socket behind. So you also can't use a regular socket to install them, because it'll just, the plug will drop out and drop down in, and you don't want that, because if it lands just wrong, it might bend that electrode at the top. So this is the solution that I found for this. This is just some sort of vacuum hose or something. I don't even remember what exactly it is. I've just had this around. I'll put a little bit of anti-seize on the plug, because that's always a good idea. And then I can feed it down in, and then, this is harder to do one-handed, but if I give the hose a twist, I can get the plug started, and then once it's started, it's in there enough that I can just pull this off the end of the hose, or off the end of the plug. And then that plug is started in there, I can put a regular socket in there, crank it down. It'll be fine. But that's just a little trick that I've learned. Alright, I've got all these boots changed out. The boot is just press fit onto the end of the coil. There's a spring down the middle, and then there's this little, like, pellet connector that the coil's got a tube that sticks out of it. So the replacement one of these goes in, and then you just push the boot on with the thing there. It just goes on nice and easy. And then I've been using the goo that comes with it a little bit around here to just have a good seal to the plug so that no moisture gets in there and affects the plug's ability to fire. So at this point, it's just glue these other two, screw them down, and then reassembly. Unfortunately, I moved this thing around enough that this gasket looks pretty trashed now. It's kind of got gunk all over it. So I think I'm going to get another gasket, which is going to take a run out to AutoZone or something to accomplish that. But once I've got that gasket, I'm just going to slap this all back together. Alright, we are back together. I got the Felpro gasket set. They're MS97038. That had the linked 4 gaskets for the bottom, and then it had the round gasket where this fits on the intake. Realistically, you need both, because you have to take that off to get the intake off. But plugs, plug tubes, now intake gaskets, and all put back together again. So I need to start it very briefly and make sure that nothing's weird. I probably should have done that before I put the cover back on, but whatever. Okay, well that's not great. It is not running smoothly. It hasn't thrown a code, but it's got a stumble to it that I do not like. Now when I took the intake off, one of the injector's plugs popped off. It didn't seem to click back into place, so I'm wondering if I bumped that same injector plug putting the intake back on again. But yeah, it's definitely got a unevenness to it that implies either a misfiring cylinder or a cylinder that's not firing at all. So that's the injector, and it's always on. Now the hassle is I can't check the plugs without ripping this goddamn intake off again. But let's just see, that's on, that's on, that's on, that lower hose is on, this is on, this is on, this never got disconnected. Huh. Alright, well, there's nothing I can do about it right this moment because I can't run the engine because I'm in the garage and the ass end is away from the door. So even if I open the door, I'd still fill the garage with monoxide. So I'm going to do the other stuff that needs doing anyway, and then I'm going to come back to this when I can run it long enough to see if it throws a code or something. Alright, well, we've run into yet another snag. The lower control arm, I got one bolt out of it. The other two, I was having no luck. I went and looked at the other side, and one of the nuts on the other side is so rusty, the part that the wrench would grab is just crumbling off of it. So I think, realistically, I don't know where I put that. Good, the one bolt I took out, but realistically, I think from a safety standpoint at that point, I need to replace the hardware. So I'm going to have to go probably to the dealer or something and buy the bolt and nut that goes across there, the vertical one over there, and then the one that goes through by the ball joint here, just so that that's all brand new non-rotted hardware. So I'm going to put the one that I took out back in again. The control arms are going to go on the back burner for a while, and it is cold in here and everything's rusty, and I'm going to go outside. I will catch you all later. Alright, well, since I was going in anyway, I opened the big door, fired it up, and poking around, and this injector on the cylinder 4 was the one that I knocked the thing off, taking it off before. And I checked that, that wasn't it. So I was poking around with this thing and then discovered what it was I'd knocked the plug off injector 1 over here. So it was running on 2 through 4. So I put that back on and now it's running much better. I wish I could see the other 2 injectors because now my brain is paranoid that those plugs are... Oh, yeah, I just knocked one off. That one was barely on. So I need to figure out how to get in here and seat those better. Why they don't latch on properly, I don't know, but yeah, I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to get these seated properly. Then I'm going to be done for tonight. But at least I found the source of the weird misfire. Alright, and we're at day 3, trying to get the cube fixed. I got my heater going again. I got a frosty cold beverage, which I probably should have a warm beverage instead. It's like 40 something degrees in here. But I'm going to get back at this. I'm very happy because I solved that problem with the misfire. And I did get that one other one back on. So engine should be all great now as far as that goes. I'm going to get underneath. I'm going to jack it up a little bit higher, get underneath, do that lower vibration mount thing, which is probably going to involve heating up the bolts with a torch because they're just rusty as hell. But I have to get it up high enough that I can get the impact gun on it, because right now I can't. I still have an oil change to do. I still have a belt to do. I'm going to get my partner out there to help with the belt because the way it's routed, I definitely can't do that easily by myself. And I think that's my list. I don't know. I have to go look at the pile of parts in the back. All right. So we're having no luck here either. One of them came out just fine. Ironically, the one in the transmission, where I figured the aluminum and steel were going to be a problem. But the other one will not budge. Heat didn't help. The stupidly overpowered gun didn't help. Pry bar being pushed by me didn't help. That deformed something, but I don't know what, because it rotated somewhat, but I think what actually happened was that I deformed the threads on it. I can't tell if it's supposed to have a nut on the top, or if what's on the top is a piece that's an integral part of this cross member, but it ain't going anywhere. I've actually been staring at this cross member and wondering if my best bet would be to go to the junkyard and find another cross member from something that's less disgustingly rusty. Because if I could get another cross member and I could get this one out intact, which is a separate problem, that might be a better choice. Because this bolt's rusted, that bolt's rusted, that bolt's rusted, that bolt's rusted. Literally every part that's attached to the bottom of this cross member, the bolts are rusted in place. So I don't know. I think I'm going to put this other bolt back in. We're going to shelve that too for now, which is frustrating to me. But if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And the car runs and works, and this thing's not shot. Like, the control arms are shot. I have to replace those. But this is not shot. It's not great, but it's not shot. I was replacing it mostly out of an abundance of caution because it's rusty. But it'll do for now. And it's not a motor mount. It's a vibration mount. So, worst case, the motor will be as vibrating as it is now. So I can pause that for now while I do a little bit more research. And then, oh, very weird. Yeah, I'm going to do some more research on all of this because this is super annoying and I don't know what the right solution is. But I'm going to go in and have dinner. Alrighty, I got the belt changed. I didn't film it because my partner and the kiddo were out here while we were fighting with it, and it's just two people, their arms shoved in it like it's the back of a cow. But old belt was definitely more than due. It is just cracked to hell. So definitely used up that one. Alright, oil change is done. Filter took a little convincing to get off. But, you know, if I'd been living in the same place since 2021, I'd not be happy about leaving either. But anyway, it's done. The oil wasn't actually that bad for its age. I suspect, you know, I've been driving it enough to heat it up to get the, you know, burn out some of the crud. But that's all done. But starting it up to check it reminded me of the other thing I've completely fell out of my head, which is the exhaust rattle and leak. Haven't dealt with that. So I guess that's what we're going to work on next. I got to get the front down, I got to get the back up, and then we'll get back there and figure out what we're doing. All right, so this is what I'm fixing. That should have a joint there. It doesn't because it's clearly previously rotted out and somebody repaired it like that. An entirely new exhaust system is coming up on 300 bucks. So I'm going to patch this one more time. And then when that patch fails or if something else blows out, I will put an exhaust system in it. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can get this thing. There, I guess that works. It's closer than I had wanted it, but okay. My plan is to come in and actually cut it here and here and just eliminate this whole repair because they used a way too large pipe, it looks like. And then I'm going to measure the diameter of these pipes, get a new piece to sleeve in there, and then clamp or weld that on is my current plan. Whether that's going to survive as a plan or not, I don't know, but that's where we're going to start from. Oh, I also forgot, I got a spare tire. Apparently when I said I don't need to do any work on the rear suspension or brakes, my brain just said, okay, the rear of the car is done, and forgot everything about it. But I got another spare, I'll show you that later. It's going to go back in here to solve that problem. So I got this thing out and I measured it, and it's 1.5 inch inside diameter pipe, both ends. Unfortunately, I don't have anything close to this because the last thing I hacked a exhaust system repair on was the Magnum, which had 2.5-inch pipes. So, wow, look at that. And blown out over there too. So even if this end had broken, that end was all busted up too. So I need to go get a piece of whatever the heck fits over 1.5-inch ID. All right, I'm back with pipe. This is the only thing I can find that fit reasonably well onto there. It's not going to fit the other end easily because this is actually sliced partway through the beginning of a bend, and I think I actually left some nubbins of the weld on. So the other end's probably going to need some grinding as well as something. So I'm going to cut this thing in half, and like, you know, somewhere down here, give myself plenty of extra, but make it a little more wieldy for under there, and get it to fit both ends. All right, I'm using my headlights, so that's not the best light. But yeah, it's in. It actually was pretty easy. There was just one little nubbin on the upper stream pipe that needed to be ground down, and then that slipped over it and is pretty far down it actually. And then same over on this side. It's actually like, it's got at least an inch of overlap on both ends. So what I'm going to do is get the welder all set up and whatnot, and then I'm basically going to push it up like this and then weld it, because right now the tip is up a little too high, and that's what's burning the muffler, and even though, or burning the bumper, and even though I'm taking the bumper off, I'd rather have this angled properly and avoid that, because it's also got the pipe as the lowest point in the car, and I'd rather not have that. So if I do something stupid with this, I don't rip the exhaust system off, I, you know, just scrape the underside. Oh, dirty gas on. My welds aren't going to be good because I'm welding rusty metal. So I'm going to get a bunch of oxygen in there from the iron oxide, but it works better if you turn on the actual tank that's connected to the welder, not the dead tank. Okay. Do you believe that's the best I'm gonna do? Yeah, there's definitely gaps there. There's probably still some gap back there, but I can't get the welder in there. Even if I took the tire off, there's just no access back there. So I'm gonna have to call that good for now. What I will probably do is come back in with like high temp JB weld or exhaust pipe or something like that, and just pack in all around these just to fill in those little gaps. But this will be fine for now, and that'll at least stop this muffler from rattling all the time. Oh my god, I'm so tired of listening to it. All right, so that takes care of that. The last thing is the spare, and then I will call today done. This is the spare out of the cube that is all rotted to hell and does not hold air. And I needed to figure out a solution for that, and that solution is a Nissan Versa spare. So 2007 to 2011, all Versa spares, and the 2012 hatchback, but not the sedan, and nothing going forward. Those are the years that work because they're the ones that have the 4 on 114.3, or also known as 4 on 4.5 bolt pattern. The later ones have 4 on 100 and won't work. These tend to be in better shape because they sit in well under the cargo area inside the car, rather than the cube one that sits under the car. So this is just literally, I went to the junkyard and found whichever Versus spare looked nicest. This one looks like it's never even touched the ground. So I bought that. I think it cost me, it was on sale, so it didn't cost me much. It's got a little bit of rust here. Probably had some water leakage into there, but not enough that I'm going to be terribly concerned about it. Now, to avoid a quick repeat of the cube spare there, my plan with this is I'm going to spray the hell out of the steel parts front and back with fluid film. Actually, I might even do cavity fluid film or cavity wax, one or the other, whatever I find first, and just coat all the metal so that this will get crap thrown into it, it will get moisture in it, but if it's got that barrier of protection, that'll help extend the life of this significantly. I had originally considered drilling some holes so this could drain, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is, powder coating or some other heavy duty coating the factory puts on. If I drill those holes, no matter what I coat them in, is going to be less good than this coating. So I'd rather just have the, like I said, cavity wax or fluid film in there so that whatever moisture sits in here just sits in here and evaporates off in time. Similarly, if this is going to get sand and crap in there, I'd have to drill some big holes to keep that from just plugging it up anyway. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this all gross and disgusting to touch, and then I'm going to go put it under the car. All right, I didn't film that because after I started, I realized I couldn't touch the camera without making it gross. I'd also put anti-seize on the threads, so maximum disgustingness. So what I ended up doing under here is coating the spare in cavity wax inside and out, and coating the body and bits and stuff in fluid film, just get every disgusting gross fluid in there at the same time. So that's as protected as it realistically can be. It's all back up in there, and like I said, I put anti-seize on the threads. I'd actually done that before. When I took this down, I put anti-seize on when I put the empty cage back up again, and had just completely forgotten. But exhaust is fixed. I now have a spare tire that holds air. I do have to double check the tire pressure in it, I just realized. I will wait a few days until that cavity wax dries. But this is now all taken care of. So I'm going to call that a win. Well, win-ish. I got, let's see, exhaust is fixed, spare tire is replaced, oil change, which it needed so badly, is done. Plugs, plug boots, air filter, belt, which it also desperately needed, and the upper one of these are all done. Oh, and new lug nuts. Oh, so I don't know if you noticed, I put chrome lug nuts on it. That was not an aesthetic choice. This was literally the only way I could find the correct thread pitch. I'll put it that in here with the 13/16 outside diameter to match the lug wrench that's in the car. There was no, I couldn't find any just simple, like, where are they? Anyway, I can't find them. I couldn't find any simple lug nuts like that easily. Rock Auto didn't have them. My local auto parts stores didn't have them. So it just ended up, these were, I take it back, there was one place that had them, but they wanted like $5 a lug nut for just simple steel, with zinc coating, open lug nuts, and these were like $5 something for a pack of 4. So it's like, screw it, I'll just buy the chrome ones. No, it doesn't matter either way. So this hubcap's still off because this is the one wheel I took off, so I still need to tighten that down. The other ones got tightened while the vehicle was on the ground, so they should be all fine. So yeah, we are done with cube maintenance, so we can go back to cube fun, especially now that I got the garage cleared out. I can get back in here. I was waiting for something to do the headlights. I got it, but it's rustier than I expected, so I've still got to do some rust treatment on it so I can take it apart and clean it up and paint it. So that's going to delay the headlights. The rear lights, I've got all the pieces I need for them. There's one more thing I've realized I want for them, but that's going to be a quick trip to get that. The rear bumper, I'm missing one big piece that's not easy to come across. I think I've got a line on it, but I got to email a guy to find that out. I need to start doing interior aesthetics on it. So that's another project that I have a bunch of stuff, but I don't know if I have everything. So this is a way of saying I might have a video out next week. I might not. I'm not even sure if I'm going to get this video out in time. So yeah, I'm going to keep trying to work on it. I need to work on other stuff. The van's got... I need to like keep up with entropy on the van. I need to tear the front end apart on the van now that the mechanics of this are settled, but I think that's going to wait until it's properly winter. And this I want to get back on this winter. My goal is when the weather sucks real bad this winter, I want to be in here and working on that, but that means I've got to insulate the roof in here. So really want to get back to the Oldsmobile. Very distractible, so I haven't gotten to it. But anyway, I'm blathering on. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.